Well, I had to have a bit of a dramatic intro because if you know me, you know I'm not only a chocolate-aholic, I'm also a coffee-aholic. And we're getting ready to go through hurricane season, and sometimes that can mean we'll be without power for a pretty good amount of time, and it's definitely a morale booster to have a nice freshly brewed cup of coffee. I'm appreciative of instant coffee, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as good when you have to face a yard full of destruction and mayhem. Sipping on a nice cup of freshly brewed coffee is definitely a morale booster before you start your day. Now, this first method we're going to do, it's basically like if you're going camping, got a little camp stove. It's our 2-burner Coleman camp stove, and if you want a 1-burner, you could do that too. There's a variety of camp stoves. They're all very easy to use, very straightforward, and they pretty much all work the same. You basically have to connect your gas, whether it be propane or butane, and you're going to turn the knob and light your stove. Some of them have clickers where they'll light automatically. You don't even need a lighter. You'll just have to follow the directions and instructions on whichever stove you choose to get if you choose to do this. Now, to me, this is like having a portable gas stove. This is the easiest, most straightforward, and I think the fastest way to get the job done with boiling water or making coffee. We're going to heat up our water on our stove in our kettle, and then we're going to use a French press to brew our coffee. Or maybe the terminology is steep the coffee, because it'll actually kind of be steeping in the hot water. Now, this video isn't going to be how to make the perfect cup of coffee. I'm not checking temperatures. I'm not weighing and measuring my beans. I'm just showing you how to make a good cup of coffee whenever the power is out. If you're going to purchase a kettle, make sure and check them that they can be used on a gas stove. The other clunker that I set up here was my cast iron kettle, and I love it dearly, but oh my goodness, it weighs a ton, but I figure it'll probably last till the end of time. Now from here, we're going to, once our water is boiling, we turn off our burner. We're going to bring out our French press, and you measure out however much coffee you would like to use. I use a couple scoops in this one. And a lot of times you'll see French presses will be glass, and I initially had a glass one, but you can imagine it broke, so now we're doing the stainless steel thing. But once you put in your coffee, you're going to cover it with your water, and don't get it too full, because when you put the top on and you have to press it down, it'll come shooting out of the spigot, and hot coffee shooting out is very messy and not fun and dangerous. So for now, once we get our coffee in, we're going to put our water over the top of it, and then we're just going to place our press down on top of it, but we're not going to press it down. And you need to let it steep for maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes. I kind of have the video sped up a little bit here. But once it's steeped for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, you want to slowly press it down, and this will press your coffee grounds all the way down to the bottom of your kettle. And with all 3 of these methods today, it's very important that you watch your pets and little children around this. They all involve open flames. They all involve boiling water. So definitely you yourself be careful, but also watch your children and pets when doing any of these methods. My final warning with this, and I set this up inside for demonstration purposes, but it's usually used outside. But if you're going to use this inside your house, anything that's gas burning, you need to err on the side of caution and have a carbon monoxide detector handy dandy to make sure everything is staying safe and that you're safe. Our second method is going to be a biomass stove, or I've heard them called a twig stove or a stick stove. Basically, it's your container, and it's got a grate in the bottom to keep airflow moving underneath your fire. And then the top part of it allows you to have a little space in there between your pot and your fire. And you can walk around and collect dried sticks and leaves and twigs and anything that will burn that's in your yard laying around, and you can start your little fire and you have a stove. Now, my only downside with using this kind of a stove is, like today, it's very windy, and so it can be really hard to get a fire started whenever it is windy. I carry a little baggie of dryer lint with me, and that kind of helps get the fire going a lot easier. But the great thing about this stove is you don't need any kind of an axe to chop wood or a hatchet or anything. You don't need to carry liquid fuel with you. Basically, all you need to do is walk around in nature and collect leaves and twigs and sticks and break them up, and then you've got your fuel for your fire right there. Now for this method, we're going to be heating up a little pot of water. We're going to be making some cowboy coffee, and I was actually very impressed at how fast it heated up the water, brought it up to a boil. I would say it brought it up to a boil about as fast as the Coleman camp stove. Now I did have to watch it because it did try to go out on me a few times, but I just tossed some little sticks in there. I think I left that footage in, you'll be able to see, and kept the fire going. And like I said, it's not, I guess, the easiest. The Coleman stove would be easier, but this definitely did the job, and it did the job really well. And I don't have any affiliate links or anything like that, and I've had a lot of this stuff for many years, but if I can find all of these products, I'll link them below in the description box so you can find them and look at them if that is something of interest to you. So the wind keeps blowing out my fire here, and eventually we get it going. I had to move my table up a little closer to a structure to keep it from blowing out. My footage is all over the place in this one. So yay, we finally got our fire going, and we're up against a structure, so maybe that'll kind of help us. Now I have a pot that I kind of use as my dedicated pot for this stove, because it gets the outside of your pot really smutty, and if anyone has any tips or tricks of how to get the smut off of your pots, let me know in the comments section. I will be forever in your debt on that one. Now when you're making cowboy coffee, you have your water in your pot, and then you add your coffee to it, and I haven't gotten very specific with my amounts because everybody likes their coffee differently. I'm usually accused of making mine way too strong, but you know, everybody's got their own taste of coffee and how you like it, so make it how you normally would. But the main thing is with this, you want to put your water in, put your coffee in, put your lid on your pot, and then bring it up to a boil and let it boil for about a minute or so. And then after it comes to a boil, we're going to take it off the fire and we'll let it sit and steep for just a few minutes. Now here you can see the fire looks like it went out, so I'm having to feed a few more sticks. With this stove, if you can catch it, just throw your sticks in there. It immediately came back to life, so it wasn't like it went out completely. But with this small of a stove, you do kind of have to keep an eye on that. But it brought the coffee up to a boil really fast. Within a few minutes, I was checking it. It was already at a simmer. It's kind of hard to see with the steam hitting the camera. It's not a real good angle there. But I gave it a good stir with the spoon just to check on it and put the lid on and gave it just a few more minutes. And in a couple more minutes, you'll see it's at a rolling boil. So our coffee has been at a rolling boil for just a couple minutes. You don't want to boil it too long, but just a few minutes. And then we will take it off of the flame. And this stove is small enough that your fire will go out in just a very short amount of time. I would say within a few minutes, everything should burn out of it. But I would definitely keep an eye on it. Don't walk off and leave it unattended until it burns out completely and you're sure there's no flame or ash that's going to start any kind of a fire. Just keep a check on it. So we're going to let it steep for just a few minutes. And with cowboy coffee, I've heard that they splash a little cold water in there, and that will help your coffee grounds sink to the bottom. So that's what I do. I hit it with just a little bit of cold water, not a whole lot. And then after that, your coffee is ready to serve. Like I was talking about earlier, you probably wouldn't want to use a full-size kettle on this stove or on the stove in the final method because it would make it really top heavy and really dangerous. But they actually do have, if you don't have a kind of pot or something that you would like to use on these smaller stoves, they do actually have little kettles for camping and backpacking and things like that. Sometimes you can find them in big box stores. I know you can find them online, and that would probably be a little safer choice. Now our third method, we're going to be doing a percolator on top of an alcohol stove. Okay, and this is our alcohol stove. The first lid that I take off is a damper, and I'll show you how to use that in just a little bit. The second lid is one that screws on and off, and it actually has a rubber gasket on the inside, so if you have any residual fuel left over, you can screw this lid down tight and then it won't leak everywhere, especially if you're carrying it in a backpack. If you're going to cook with your alcohol stove, you definitely need some kind of a stand like what I have here. This keeps airflow between your flame and your pot so it doesn't smash your flame down. And there are multiple types of fuel that can be used with these alcohol stoves, the most common being denatured alcohol like what I have here. Now you always want to make sure you keep the lid on it or it'll evaporate. Or you can also use Everclear. I mean, there's more that you can use than this, which Everclear is 190 proof, but I've just had experience using both of those, so I'll only speak about those right now. Now today we're going to use the denatured alcohol, and if you could see the little, I should have held the little stove up close to the camera so you could see. If you're not familiar with them, I'll have to include a picture. I should have showed you up close what it looks like, but we put our fuel in the middle, and then there are little tiny pinholes around the outside, and I had to look up exactly how it works. And basically it says an alcohol stove works by vaporizing and then burning liquid alcohol fuel. Most alcohol stoves are pressurized designs, meaning they have an internal chamber that heats and pressurizes the alcohol, forcing it out through the small holes as a vapor. The vaporized fuel then ignites, creating a flame for cooking. So with our percolator, if you've never used a percolator like this, you have your water already in your kettle, and this is the insert that goes into the kettle, into the water, and this basket stays suspended at the top. Now you're going to have to plug the little middle hole. I usually just use my finger and plug it so you don't get coffee grounds in your water. And then you put however much coffee you would like to use. Again, I'm with the 2 scoops. I'm like Raisin Bran. I do 2 scoops and everything. But plug the little hole so the coffee grounds don't get in there. Put your 2 scoops in and then close the lid. Oh, wait a minute. I got to put the top on there. Put the top on the basket. I forgot to do that. It'll dawn on me in just a minute. And also, if you notice, I put the lid back on the alcohol stove whenever I put the fuel in there, and that's so it wouldn't evaporate out. But I'll take this off now, and basically all you have to do is either use a lighter or a match and hold it up close to it and it'll ignite immediately. If there's a lot of sun shining, it may be hard to see, but yeah, there's definitely a flame. You'll hear it kind of poof whenever it lights. Now, alcohol stoves are extremely easy to use. They're relatively cheap. They're easy to find. The fuel is really easy to source, but they can be very dangerous, so you have to be very careful with them. And when I talk about being top heavy, this setup was a little top heavy. I would probably go with maybe a smaller pot if I was going to do this on a regular basis, because this was pretty top heavy here. But it was just me and I was very careful, so we were okay with it. But an alcohol stove, if you knock an alcohol stove over, your fuel will run out and the fire will trail right after it. So if you ask a lot of hikers and backpackers, they've had experience with this and can tell you firsthand that it can be a little dangerous. So most of the time I use these outside if I'm going to use them. I'm inside today only because of how windy it was and I wanted to get this footage filmed for my video. But definitely be careful and absolutely don't use these stoves around children or pets. Now, once your coffee starts to percolate, as the water gets hot, it'll come up and it will percolate. You'll see the water start to jump up and it will splash down over your coffee grounds, and that's how it brews your coffee if you're not familiar with the percolator. Once it begins to percolate, you want to let it go for about 5 to 7 minutes. Now, the top of your alcohol stove, this damper, you can use this to control your flame by how open or closed it is. And also, this is used to just extinguish the flame whenever you're ready to put out your fire. You just plop the closed lid down on top of the flame and it will extinguish the flame. So I hope you enjoyed this video about ways to boil some water or make some coffee whenever the power is out. Definitely not a complete list. I have more ways that I can show you, and hopefully in the future I will do that. I love cooking outside and campfire cooking, so if you would like to see more of that, please leave me a comment. Leave me a comment and let me know if you've tried any of these or what your thoughts are. And as always, I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for being here. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.